insectivorous birds for pest control benefits can be fascinating. They can be supported with nest boxes by allowing them to nest on buildings and giving them safe places to nest on the ground. Providing what they need, understanding where to put the nest boxes, and protecting them from predators will ensure successful nesting on the farm. Many songbirds have used natural cavities in the wild. These are created by woodpeckers and limbs falling off of live trees and snags. Because we have moved into natural areas, artificial nest sites are becoming valuable real estate in the bird world.
So you'd like to attract birds to your agricultural landscape. Whether you want to go about this by providing nest boxes for the birds or by allowing them a nest on existing structures that you have, there are 3 things you need to keep in mind. The first thing is providing plenty of food for them. Birds need thousands of insects to sustain themselves and their young during the breeding season. Second, birds need cover. This cover is for them to hide from the cold nights and also to hide from predators. And 3, you need to provide water to your birds so that they can drink and they can bathe. If you can provide these 3 things, they will, in exchange, help control your pests. Songbirds need a lot of food for the breeding season. An average bird is going to visit their nest over 150 times a day. This is about once every 5 minutes. What that means for you is you need to put your bird boxes really close to where they have a constant food source. So in addition to feeding on the pests in your agricultural fields, it's important to keep keystone species like this beautiful oak here around where you're putting your bird boxes. Oak trees provide lots of nutritious caterpillars that they could feed on all year round.
At a partner vineyard surrounded by oak woodlands, we estimated that 170,000 pests and other insects had to be eaten by western bluebirds when they were using the 45 nest boxes on that operation during the nesting season. Another consideration is whether there is cover nearby the nest site, such as thickets, shrubs, trees, places where fledglings can fly to when they leave the nest. This will ensure that they have some safety as they are learning to avoid predators. Cover is also used by the parents when they're roosting, when they're avoiding adverse weather, and when they're watching over their young.
Birds are naturally drawn to the sound of dripping water. So having a pond or a stream on your farm is really good for attracting birds. However, if you don't have those available, an irrigation line left dripping could work just as well. Adding water will bring them to where you need them to be, and that can help with pest control. You've decided to put nest boxes up on your farm. That's great. We recommend a Western bluebird box. The hole size and the specifications of the box can actually fit many more bird species than just a Western bluebird, and kind of gives you a best bang for your buck in terms of attracting a wide diversity of insectivorous birds to your farmscape. This same box could support tree and violet green swallows, chestnut-backed, black and mountain chickadees, house and Buick's wrens, ash-throated flycatchers, oak titmice, and white-breasted nuthatches. We use a plan from Cornell's Project Nest Watch, and this has all of the specifications that will help keep birds safe. One thing that we put in our boxes that is not in Cornell Project Nest Watch is the chick ladders. It's a small ladder on the front inside of the box that allows the chicks to climb up and peer out of the box, and metal hole guards around the hole to prevent squirrels and woodpeckers from widening the hole so that they can use the box. You want to attract a wide variety of species to your nest boxes because every bird species will have a different way about attacking pests on your field. Since there are many different species of birds that will use our basic bird box design, it matters where you put your bird box in attracting certain species. For instance, western bluebirds prefer a semi-open habitat, and they will glean off of trees and shrubs and your crops, while birds like the violet green swallow and the tree swallow, they prefer an open habitat as well, but they're soaring over your fields, catching pests that are, flying insects. Chickadees or nuthatches prefer their boxes set further back into cover, so if you end up putting your box under an oak tree or within a forest edge, you're likely to get a chickadee or a nuthatch nesting in your box. It is as much of a science as it is an art, and it takes trial and error to figure out exactly what species you're going to attract depending on where you put your bird boxes. When determining a good place to place a nest box, it's important to consider the safety of the birds. So some factors you want to consider: are there lots of predators nearby where I'm putting this nest box? If there are known cat populations, raccoons, snakes, birds of prey that are nearby, you want to keep them from high propensity predator areas like compost piles and bird feeders as well. And also, you don't want to put them right alongside heavy walkways, areas where there's lots of agricultural work regularly happening, cars zooming by, or just general disturbances of that nature from humans. You also don't want to put birds in proximity to regular pesticide sprays, no matter how benign or organic they may be. They lower the populations of insects for the birds to actually eat. Use pesticides sparingly and implement integrated pest management practices, such as not spraying before an economic threshold point is met.
For the safest bet, mount a nest box on a pole with a wobbling baffle predator guard. This will reduce the incidence of cats, raccoons, squirrels, snakes, rats, and mice from getting at the box. We use a metal conduit pole placed over rebar pounded halfway into the ground. Hanging baskets can also be fairly safe, although sometimes predators can get into them. Attaching a nest box to a fence is sometimes the cheapest and easiest. That is, if there aren't predator problems. Wire fences are better than wooden fences because it's harder for predators to travel across the top of the fence. If cats and raccoons are a problem, having an extended awning on the top of the box and or using a knoll wire guard can help stop the animals from reaching from the top into the box. If you are going to use a knoll guard, you need to attach it after nesting has begun, because sometimes it will discourage the adults from using a box. It may be best just to move the box if their predator problems persist. If so, move it to another part of the farm, put it on a pole, and use a wobbling baffle. We don't encourage mounting nest boxes on trees because too many of the predators live in trees and have easy access to the eggs, nestlings, and parents in the box. One of the easiest ways to support insectivorous birds is to allow them to nest on your buildings. Clip swallows and black phoebes will use mud to make their nests under the eaves of buildings, and barn swallows use mud and grass to build their nests on shelves in buildings. Having some mud around is helpful for these birds, and you can provide that by just making sure there's a depression nearby that's filled with water. Birds that are not cavity nesters or nest on buildings may want to build nests in grasses, trees, and shrubs on your farm if conditions are right. Wild Farm Alliance has online materials about which native plants birds prefer, including how they support nesting and food resources. We also have materials on how best to plant this habitat.
Aside from the bird boxes and other birds that'll nest on existing structures, there are some ground nesting birds that might call your farm home during the breeding season. One species is the killdeer, and they'll create a little scrape in the ground and lay brown speckled eggs. And when they're threatened, they'll pretend to be hurt. And so if you find these camouflage eggs, it's best to try to avoid them if you can during the breeding season, because they will also benefit you.
Making an effort to support insect-eating birds can result in pest control benefits while creating nesting sites for the birds themselves. In doing so, you are bringing nature back to the farm.